Hello and welcome back to a Hot Takes with Kari and Keelan. This is Kari Rae Davis with Kari Sells the City.
And Keelan Harvey with the Harvey Home Teams and Highlands Residential.
And this is episode 25 for us. So I'm excited to hit this milestone, Keelan. We've been keeping up, giving information to people and hopefully educating them on different topics of real estate and mortgages. And this week, the big topic for us is the new laws that are now intact in Washington that go into effect this week, which is the buyer agency agreements that we are now going to have for buyers.
Yeah, the famous NAR lawsuit
Right.
finally coming into effect.
Yep. So it goes into law on August 17th, and really it's nationwide. It's not just Washington. But Washington is not an MLS that is associated with the National Realtors Association. Our Northwest MLS is owned by its member brokers. So all of us that are brokers are members, and we are the ones that are the entity. But we are affected by the rules. And so I thought it would be wise to chat just briefly today about what that means for buyers. So, going into effect, in order to see a house for a buyer, instead of just being able to have an agent open a door for you like we used to do for the last 30 plus years, it seems like, we now have to have an agency agreement in place with our buyers to establish agency relationship. And it could be for a day, it could be for a property, or it could be for the term of your search. So that is a pretty big change because it used to be you could meet people and not have to have a conversation with them about buyer agency before you show them a house.
And I could probably speak for you, Carrie, on this side of things. Not your ideal situation, right? If it was up to you, you don't mind showing people a house or two. It's even awkward, I felt, from the other side of this for you to be like, hey, we got this form we got to sign, and you got to like, agree to work with me, right? Which makes it kind of awkward because and it's made out to be this big deal, but it's not like you're gonna hold people hostage to an agreement. If they don't want to work with you, then you don't, it goes away, right?
Well, it's like we want to work with people that want to work with us.
Yes.
I think one of the nice things is that it might protect us as agents
Hmm.
from having people waste our time per se. Like
Yeah.
it's going to show that there's going to be more of a consultation.
Yeah.
I would say a consultative approach. That's how I'm approaching it. Instead of
Yeah.
meeting somebody on the fly, which happens. I mean, I used to get phone calls and I would meet somebody at a house same day to at least show them the property and get to know them a little bit.
Yeah.
And that could still happen, but it's more along the lines of, for me, it's important for me to have a consultation with my potential buyers, to have a sit down and talk about what these changes are, get agency established, and then, find out if we're a right fit. So I think it's going to slow down the process of buying a little bit, where it's going to be more intentional, where it's not just going to be, you've got one person talking to five other agents at a time. And I don't want to call it a time waster, but there have been times where, you get, looped into showing a house just once and then you never hear from those people again. Um,
But I mean, as you as a professional as you are, I know you had a formal process with everybody to begin with, so it's really
correct.
not a crazy change for you either. I think it's the more the perception of the form for
Right.
some of the people, that are looking and buying, than anything. So, but you as a process, the best agents, right? You meet with your people and make sure you're a good fit like yourself.
Right. I think if anything, people that don't know that this is happening, I think it's going to I feel like buyers on guard just a little bit because it's going to
Yeah.
be a new conversation right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Another part of this process is that with this law change, and one reason why we need a buyer agency agreement or a buyer agent service agreement, as some people call that, in place prior to showing houses, is to make sure that us as buyers agents are getting compensated.
Mhm.
Now, Washington State, when I got started 10 years ago in real estate, commissions were negotiated by the listing agent and the seller, and they decided how much money the seller was going to pay into the commission bucket, and then the agent split that money with that commission with the buyer's agent. That's no longer in place now. Now the seller has gone ahead and they've decoupled, meaning they're not together. They don't negotiate together any longer. The seller decides with the listing agent how much the listing agent the fee is. And then if they want to offer a buyer's agent commission, that is something that they can do, which is optional. And I want to let people know commissions were always negotiable. It was always negotiable between the seller and the listing agent what they wanted to pay. Now they're putting it on the buyer's responsibility a little bit, where the buyer may have to pay their buyer's agent some of their commission, if not all of it, if the if the seller is not willing to pay that buyer broker's commission. So I think that initially people think that this is going to help bring prices down, but I really think it might go the opposite direction, especially for a first-time home buyer where they may have to pay for buyer agent services where in the past they didn't have to pay those services.
Yeah, I mean, on our side of things, these people are using every dollar they have to just try to get into a home. People got to remember, and this is easily forgotten, that these fees are included into what the home is being sold for. You do a net proceeds with your customers, they know what they're getting right there. So
Right.
the cost to pay for the agents is priced into the market, the whole entire market. So
Right.
this is how we've been doing this our the whole time, you know. And so I think you have people here that you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you're going to expect a buyer to pay the commission because they can't. Like, and we're not allowed to put it into a loan.
Right.
So, like, you're actually limiting the people that are going to be coming through your house and the people that are able to buy it. And ultimately, I mean, I see the biggest successes are having multiple offers on a home, right? The idea is to price it right, make it enticing for people to come and purchase your home and to see lots of showings. And I see people are going to try to take advantage of this, but I don't think it's going to be in anyone's best interest.
Well, and I just think that, as a seller, you want to think about who you're trying to work with to sell your home. And
Hmm.
professionals out there, we know what goes into a transaction. And some sellers may not think that us buyers agents really work for our commissions and are doing anything, but there are so many things that happen on the buy side to make sure that the transaction stays together and doing inspections and showings, and there's so many pieces to the puzzle. And that's one reason why I went ahead and I updated my buyer agency presentation to go ahead and list out. I went through and listed out every single thing I'm doing in every, portion of the transaction. So as a buyer, you can see like all of the detail of what I'm providing to you for services. Because I think now that we have to come with a value proposition and show buyers really why they're hiring you, you want to make sure you're working with a good agent. And agents that are good agents aren't discount brokers. They're not going to be taking discount commissions because they understand with as expensive as it is to be in business as a realtor, you have to make money. You have to get a paycheck at the end of the day. And we work for that. So I think it's going to be a perception change, and hopefully it's not going to be too difficult for buyers to understand that they're going to have this conversation with whomever they're working with. It's not just me, and it's not just, your Washington realtor. It's every state is going through this change right now.
Well, people don't realize, like, you guys don't get paid 3%. Like, you have to market yourself. You have all of your overhead. You have gas. You have
Insurance,
all insurance, all of your expenses, and then you have to pay your
desk
broker.
fees,
And
yeah,
yeah, desk fees, your broker, all that. You guys are getting
taxes,
taxes is huge.
taxes,
Yeah, so
yeah,
you guys aren't getting a large chunk, and you're doing all this effort in good faith and in
right,
the best interest of customers. So there's so much work behind it. If it was that easy, why isn't everybody a real estate agent? You know? I
precisely.
mean,
Right, yeah,
right? I mean, if it was that easy, everybody just go out and be a real estate agent, make 3% and ching ching, we're in the money. I
right.
mean, there's so much to it. The amount of scar tissue from the years of your experience. Our business is one of those where you can't even teach it because you could kind of give somebody a base of us how this works. Even in the lending side, new employees, like I was so confused being a new loan officer because I asked questions and they're like, it depends. And
Case
I'm
by
like,
case.
Yeah, from a financial advisor where everything's cookie cutter to like it depends. I'm like, how does it depend? It depends because the rules change 24/7 and there's so many different pieces to scenarios. So the only way you can really learn the business is by going through tons and tons and tons of transactions and building that knowledge base that you have that is irreplaceable.
Right.
And I mean, I've had some discussions with some a lot of top agents, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Carrie. When you most most people that come to a transaction without an agent, a buyer's agent, those transactions fail often because there's way too much into that people don't. You can't just learn it on the fly.
No, and there are some people out there that might be able to do it. Maybe they're retired or they've been in the business and they might understand, what the forms mean. But, like at the Northwest MLS, we have very boilerplate, paperwork and addendums. Like it's very boilerplate. We don't change things. The Northwest MLS has been very progressive during this time because they saw that this was going to be happening. And they went ahead and started changing the rules years ago to get us prepared for this moment. So I feel that we are more prepared in the Northwest than other states are. Because I feel like and I'm not an agent in any other state. I'm only licensed in Washington. But hearing, grumblings from other people, it's a bigger deal for them maybe because their MLS wasn't as ahead of the curve. And our Northwest MLS has been ahead of the curve, having these conversations. They really implemented us going into a buyer agency scenario with a buyer first thing at the beginning of the year. They wanted to prep us and have us ready for this. So this is conversations I've been having with my buyers since the beginning of the year for sure. But now it is law. And if somebody pushes back, and they don't want to sign paperwork with somebody right away, like I said, the options are you can always just sign an agency agreement for that one particular property. Maybe you're signing for the day that you go out to tour somebody. Because really, one thing that I do like to do is get out with somebody at least once to, see how they see things, see how their style of looking is. What kind of questions do they ask, and really spend a little time with them after a consultation. So I feel like if somebody was still on the fence at that point, take them out for a day, have an agency agreement in place for those properties, and then after that, if things go well and you're ready to cement that relationship with your agent, then hopefully you can take away some of those feelings of fear or objection, and be able to move forward, because you really can't do it on your own. I mean, it really is just there. We're licensed for a reason. We're beholden to the state with certain ethics and knowledge, and we have to maintain our licenses and keep education up. And it isn't something to be taken lightly. If we make a mistake, we get fined heavily.
Mm.
So we're heavily, heavily regulated. So I feel that, buyers should feel confident when they go into an agreement with somebody. But if they're not getting the service that they want or they deserve, they should be able to have that conversation and say, this isn't working. I'd like to work with somebody else, and have the prerogative to do so. And most agents I know would grant that. So
Let me ask you, Carrie, considering I know a lot of the country's freaking out, we've been doing this for a while, and there was some fear originally. Like, we were like, what the heck does this mean? How do
right.
you feel like it panned out? Do you feel like it was that big of a deal?
I mean, the way that I look at it is it's just another set of addendums and conversation to have out of the gate. It's just they're trying to make it so it's transparent. So this conversation is happening. I mean, when I got started in real estate, it used to be that we couldn't even talk about commissions. Like once it was set by the listing agent and the seller, we couldn't mention it anywhere because we were going to get what we were getting, and that was it. There was no negotiation on what we got paid.
Mm.
Now I think it's kind of a good thing so people understand how we get paid. It doesn't just happen magically. There's so much work that happens to it, and it's good, I think, for buyers to understand, like, that we deserve to get paid. Before, the seller did it and it wasn't a conversation. I mean, and I think 9 times out of 10, most sellers are going to see that this is in their best interest to offer a buyer agency commission. Now, whether it's the amount of money or the percentage that you've agreed to pay your agent, that's another topic.
Mm.
And they basically, you can opt to adjust that in price of the commission based on the property if you need to. But going into it, you want to, state what your services are worth and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like it went by and it was like a breeze. Like it was not a big deal. Like it came and went and we put these things in place and, the market received it and it really made little to no difference in the marketplace at all. We
Business
saw
is
some,
going to continue.
yeah, I mean, yeah, we saw a little adjustments in some commissions maybe on some properties.
Hmm.
But I'm sure they paid the price for that too. They could, who knows, could have sold the home for more. You know what I mean? But overall, it was a non-issue. So for anybody freaking out in all these other states and stuff, I'm glad to be here and a prime example and to be ahead of the curve to
Me
let
too.
everybody know it was just not that big of a deal.
Right. Yeah.
Really,
I had some other
everybody
agents be
gets
like,
it.
oh no, there's another addendum to sign. Right. It's like we just have to get
Yeah.
this paperwork out of the way in the beginning.
And
Um,
savvy people get it. Savvy people get it. You know what I mean? Like they understand that this is already built into the marketplace. They understand the pros and the cons, and if you walk anybody through it, it doesn't change much.
Right. Well, and I've had some conversations with buyers of mine recently where they want to make sure that I'm getting paid, which is
Yeah,
refreshing. It's like they understand the value of the services that I'm providing and they're like, we want to make sure you're getting paid, which is that's a great, angle to look at it. But one thing I do want to mention just for anybody that's watching outside of Washington state. So the new rules now nationally will be that the offer of compensation for buyer's agents can no longer be advertised on the MLS. Now, Washington is different. Washington, there will still be that buyer agency commission in the listing because that's how we've adopted to go forward. We don't have to hide what the buyer's agent might be getting paid because we don't feel, I shouldn't say we, but yes, we in the Northwest feel that that is misleading. We want to be able to tell people what they are going to get paid so the buyer can know, hey, this is only offering a 2.5% commission. I've committed to 3% for my buyer's agent and understand where that conversation is going to go. There may be other states that are also doing that, but I appreciate that the Northwest, wants it to be transparent with how things are operating.
yeah. But overall, a non-issue. It was blown up to be the scariest, most like terrifying thing that could ever. The real estate market's going to implode. It is stronger than it's ever been, and it's only getting stronger.
Right. Yeah. So moving on, I want to ask you really quick about rates. I know that we've had some improvements, what we talked about last week, and the Fed, I know you said they're scheduled to speak again about a month from now in September.
Yep, September Jackson Hole. Yeah, the Fed minutes they call it is going to be huge because I mean everybody's holding on to every word that they're saying. But
Right.
the other week we got a BLS jobs report that showed jobs. Everything was down in that report. I mean, unemployment was up. Wages are down, like all this information. We've been talking about this. If you're watching any of our previous episodes, I've been flapping my gums about this forever. It's like just waiting for it this data is going to come out, waiting for it to happen. So rates are trending for the better. There's pressure on the Fed now in September to have to reduce rates. They realize there's kind of a problem here now. And so it'll be interesting what the Fed says. But if the Fed alludes to anything about cutting rates, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, but now they're talking about a 75% chance of cutting 50 basis points from the odds makers next month, which is more than the 25. And or even if they were going to cut rates where this started, are they going to cut rates? Is it going to be 25? Now it's like, oh man, they're going to cut rates. It's going to be 50. So like this next Fed meeting is a big deal, but we're officially in the sixes. And you know what? I'm telling you, rates are going to go down for every little bit that rates go down, more and more people are going to qualify, and
Mhm.
it's not going to get easier to buy a house. So,
Get ready. Be
yeah,
prepared.
get ready, prepare.
Yeah, yeah. If you need to do some things to get your credit in order, or you've been, sitting on your haunches, kind of waiting to see what was gonna happen, I think now is the time to start getting serious about getting ready to make moves. And even, those move up buyers out there, hopefully, they'll see that, they are maybe in a tight situation in their living quarters, and they want to, try and get something bigger. Well, coming up in the next couple months, I think is going to be a good time. I think this fall is actually going to be hot. We'll see, but that's kind
Yeah,
of what I'm thinking is going to end up happening. Is fall season is going to be hotter than it normally is.
Well, and August was busy. I don't know about was for you and me as well. August was busy, which is like normally a pretty chill time of year.
August, usually nothing happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm doing some significant numbers in this month. Actually, probably the best numbers I've done all year,
Oh,
ironically, this
really?
month. Yeah,
Great.
which just goes to show me the marketplace, right?
Right.
There's a lot of people kind of sitting and wait. So, and if you're one of those people that wants to unlock some of that equity, we have ways in which we can help you to do that to make it a seamless process from unlocking some of your equity in your current home to go and buy that home for the step up. And I know you might be sitting on a 3% interest rate, but it might, if you do the math on it, you might be surprised at where you land, not far from where you're currently at, possibly, and you're going to refinance in the future, anyways. So, one step back to take two steps forward, but you're getting into the home that you want. So, I
Well,
don't
the
know.
appreciation that you're going to get on the new home too.
Absolutely. There's
Yeah.
strategies that we can put in place, and it's good to at least know the facts and the data rather than just sitting back and guessing, oh, seems about right?
Yep.
So,
Education is key. So if
yeah.
anybody out there wants to learn more, has questions about anything, whether it's real estate related or mortgage related, you should give Keelan and I a call. You can reach me at 206-330-6985.
Or get me at 206-321-4941.
So, well, Keelan, I always appreciate your insights. Always, always.
I always appreciate your insights.
Thank
Bye,
you. Okay, well, let's put that on rest until next week.
everybody.
Take care.